Hey, I'm Brett Weldele. Today I'm going to show you one of my favorite things, distress ink. I do pretty much all my paintings now with nothing but distress ink, 100%. I'm going to show you some of my tips and techniques and see where it goes. Let's do this. Okay, before we get started, I wanted to show a couple pieces that I've done recently that showcase the techniques you're about to see in this video. As you can see, distress ink as a medium is vibrant and textural, and it's very easy to use. As we get started on this piece, I'm starting with a piece of Canson watercolor paper that I have a light sketch drawn on, very lightly. I'm rubbing some ink pads onto a non-stick craft sheet and then activating it with water. This is sort of a classic Tim Holtz technique where you're basically creating a lot of happy accidents by dragging paper around in wet ink. So I've got a peeled paint in antique linen background started here. And as ink moves around, it kind of does its own thing, and then going to sit down with the heat tool and dry it off. There's going to be a lot of that in this video. This video is actually 25 minutes long before I decided to speed up large portions of it because I don't think you want to really sit there and watch paint dry, literally. So we'll just move along here. I decided at this point that the background is too light, so I'm going to add some more color back into it with some misters filled with distress ink. That was some tumbled glass, and this is some rusty hinge. I'm going to add some water back into it, reactivate what was under there, and then also mingle with the new stuff. I'm going to let it run off here and create some streaks, because streaks are cool, and a lot of bang for buck with this technique. Does a lot of the heavy lifting for you in terms of creating an interesting textural basis to form all your paintings off of, and looks great on its own. I mean, this is actually kind of one of the most fun parts I think I have with this technique. Some of the ink doesn't dry all the way, so I have to go around and dab some of it up, and there'll be lots of more drying in this video as it's a layering technique. Now you want to be extra sure that the paper is bone dry for this next step, because otherwise the pen I'm using will just eat the paper. What I'm doing here is I've taken an eyedropper of reinker and loaded the Pilot Parallel pen with that, and then a mixture of water and just straight into the barrel. What this allows me to do is draw with distress ink. It's very flexible. I love these pens. They're very expressive. This one's loaded with some rusty hinge, and I'm just going to go around and trace off the image I've drawn on here. The Pilot Parallel pen is actually a calligraphy pen, so you're going to get lots of variety of line and texture that comes with that style of pen, with lots of different line weights and such. I really like to use it for drawing. It makes a very expressive pen, especially when you basically use it very quickly, as opposed to how you would use it as a calligraphy pen. It's all about just creating line and texture. Okay. There's our drawing. Now we're going to paint. What this entails is using more distress ink. In this case, we're going to use the stain line, which is the same as all the others. It's just this is more convenient to use in this way. the stain. We're just going to take the dropper and rub some out here on the palette. I'm going to take a slightly damp brush. I'm going to fill out some of these areas. I'm using the exact same color that I did the line work with. And this ink actually stays wet fairly long, so you can actually pull some of the ink that's already on there out. You can fray it. I'm using a fairly fat brush here, a pretty thick flat brush. I tend to like these way more than rounded brushes because you are forced to think about things more in terms of shape than line, and I really like them for just coming up with interesting happy accidents in water media techniques. I'm going to give her a contrasty background. I'm going to take some Dusty Concord, mix it with some of the Rusty Hinge, and get some background going here. Now again, you don't have to get too precious with this. I mean, this is sort of a layering game. And just let things kind of run and go where they feel like it. All these colors are pretty much straight out of the bottle. There's really no mixing required, unlike most watercolor. Everything is ready to go and works very well together. Next, we're going to take a pen with some vintage photo in it. And we're just going to kind of go around and darken up some of the areas that are not really dark enough yet. Now again, I don't want to get fussy with the line work. I just keeping it loose, letting the pen do the work for me. Not really trying to keep strict control over it. It creates interesting lines with very little input from me. This is the darkest that I want the piece to go. This is the final layer on top, and I don't need anything any darker. So, but you can pick any color you want. I picked a vintage photo in this case, but you can pick anything that'll work with whatever you're trying to do. Outlining the lips with a little bit of fire brick. Still not convinced with the hair. I'm going to lay down some frayed burlap. Take a smaller brush. As I speed through here, and I'm just wrapping up the last bit of contrast with some frayed burlap, I'm about to spray some colors back into it just to add some visual appeal. The first color I pick is by accident fired brick. I was supposed to pick spun sugar, but that's art, and you just kind of have to roll with it. Now I'm just spraying it with a little bit of water, very carefully and gently, so as not to hit her in the face. This is just sort of just a little visual appeal, and now I'm going to let the ink run over it and mingle with everything else that's on the page and create its own texture. move the colors around a little bit. This red's a little intense in here. It's just kind of overpowering things, so I'm going to bring it up here a little bit. I take some of the orange up here too. And off to the races. We're just adding some final detail here, just fine-tuning some things, and then drawing it. I want to add a little bit more detail at the very end, so got to make sure everything is absolutely dry before we do that. Yeah, there. All done. Catch you guys next time.